everybody, welcome to the Atheist Experience. We're live. It is July 15th, 2012, 2 days after Friday the 13th, and 1 day after Saturday the 14th, and 3 days after Thursday the 13th.
And the day before the day after tomorrow.
All equally important, I'm Matt Delaney. Joining me this week is Don Baker. Welcome.
Good to be here.
We're in a good mood. This is a live call-in television program out of Austin, Texas. We'll have the number up for you shortly. The announcement stuff has kind of been sidelined, and we're going to go ahead and let Don get started on his talk. How are you, by the way?
I'm doing good. I went to a holy place, believe it or not.
Holy to you or me or
holy
somebody
to
else?
me. Well, it's as close as atheists have to a holy place. I went to a great science museum. I went to the American Museum of Natural Science in New York City, where the Hayden Planetarium is. I didn't see Neil deGrasse Tyson there, but took in a great planetarium show. Spent the whole day running around the museum. It was awesome. I had a wonderful time. I
went to the Secular Student Alliance Leadership Conference in Columbus, where I helped poison the minds of the current and future leaders of the secular movement.
Good for you. Good for you.
All in a day's work.
Okay. The devil must be very happy.
Yes, yes.
Well, today I have yet another installment of my Failures of Christianity series, and I've done
which we could do forever, by the way.
That's right. That's right. So we're just scratching the surface. I'm up to number 8 today. The idea here is there's so many failures. How could there possibly be a God behind all this? Or maybe there is. I don't know. But previously I've talked about the failure of Christian-based abortion policy, the Christian genocide of the Jews, the failure of the Catholic pedophilia scandal, the failure of the prayer, failure of the Second Coming, failure of social engineering, failure of biblical morality. And today I'm going to talk about the failure of Christian science. Got to put that in quotes. So what is Christian science versus real science? Well, Christians supposedly worship the creator of the universe, the creator of the earth, the creator of all human beings, all animals, and supposedly the Bible is divinely inspired and sort of written by the hand of God indirectly, and supposedly he talks to Christians through prayer, and supposedly he knows everything. He's omniscient. So you would think that there'd be all sorts of interesting facts about the way the world works in the Bible, and believers would know all these things, and there'd be all sorts of special insights there, but that's just not the case. What qualifies as science in the Bible would fit on about 4 pages. Comments about the nature of reality, and what is there is almost completely wrong. So it's pretty abysmal. Christians like to use this word science and grab on the coattails of science and use the word creation science and these sorts of things, and try to make it sciencey and make it all better, and it's really just marketing. So often there's a sort of an attempt to steal the work of other people, or steal the work for God, steal the credit. So Christians themselves seem to value ignorance. You know, the apple of the tree of knowledge, they shouldn't have eaten that. And they in the past they've burnt books and free thinkers alike. But so I view this competition between real science and Christian science as like watching a horse race. Where one horse, the Christian science horse, has died in the gates and never really made it out, and the other horse has been going for 2,000 years or more. And which one will win? We'll see.
Well, if the finish line is right back at the start, then the dead horse got there first.
Right. So like so many other areas, Christian science is a proven failure. Although, we're not alone here in picking on Christianity. All the other religions, like Islamic science or whatever, Judaistic science, it's all the same stuff.
And it's really pretty cool too, because you can go to the Muslim science pages and they'll tell you everything that's wrong with the Christian science pages, and the Christians will tell you what's wrong with the Muslims, and they'll both tell you what's wrong with the Jews. Actually, I don't know the Jews spend a whole lot of time trying to make the Torah and Talmud match up with science.
The Jews aren't big on marketing. They're happy to have their exclusive club, right?
I think the most amusing use of science by Jews is actually using science, real science, in order to find a workaround for all the prohibitions of what they can do on the Sabbath, which is really amusing.
Little gadgets to push the button on the elevator so that you're not actually creating fire.
Or a phone that's always trying to dial every number and you have it stop, not trial, or stop, or have it, whatever. Anyway, it's confusing.
Yeah. So
continue with your
modern marvels. Okay. Well, today I'm going to talk a little bit about cosmology, which is one of the big topics that comes up. Some other physical sciences and a little bit of mathematics. Another time, and I'm going to save some of the more meaty stuff for another shows. I'll talk about the failure of creationism at another show, and I'll talk about the failure of Christian medicine in another show. So much fail, there must be a God. Okay, the cosmology, the biblical cosmology is primitively wrong. It's pretty screwed up. There's this notion of a firmament, which is this large dome that separates heaven from the earth. In biblical cosmology, the stars and the sun are fixed to the dome, and this dome rotates around. The earth is at the center, and it's flat. It's got corners, according to the Bible. Hell is somewhere below the earth. Day and night was created before the sun and the earth in Genesis 1:4-5. According to biblical scholars like Ussher, the age of the universe is somewhere between 6,000 and 10,000 years, although they're not quite sure which. And the universe was created by God from nothing, from the void. In actuality, in reality, the Earth is a planet, one of many in the solar system. There is no firmament, no sphere out there. The sun is the center of the solar system, and the sun is a star on the spiral arm of a typical galaxy with billions of stars. The Milky Way is a galaxy of one of billions in the universe. The age of the universe is 13.75 billion years, and the universe was created by natural processes from a singularity, as far as we know. So, lots of wrong here, lots of screwed up cosmology. Aristophanes, back in 2000 BCE, measured the size of the Earth. He knew it was a sphere, and he measured the angle of the axial tilt. So that's pretty impressive. Galileo upset the incorrect church's view using observational astronomy in the 1600s and pointed out the foolishness of the church's position. The church was not too happy about people using telescopes because they thought they were going to look up the skirt of God or something, I don't know. So poor Galileo spent most of the rest of his life under house arrest after that little episode and under fear of being killed. There's a long list of astronomers and others who have expanded and refined our understanding of the universe, and they continue to do so today. So meanwhile, the church and the Bible has contributed nothing, yet they're happy to claim credit. They say God did it or whatever, and there's this notion of the God of the gaps where, you know, if there's something that's not known, well, that's a good place to stick. That's a God-shaped hole to stick God in there, and that explains it. But as we learn more, that gap gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and it's really just an argument from ignorance, really. For other physical sciences, let's talk about lightning, rainbows, and materials. Okay, lightning. The Christian view up until the 18th century was lightning was the wrath of God. God was throwing thunderbolts down like Zeus in the cartoons, but they built churches on hills as shining beacons. And as such, they attracted lightning bolts. And when these churches were hit by lightning, it often destroyed them, and a lot of bell ringers got killed from that lightning. And the clergy, who were doing their best to suck up to God, were at a loss to explain how this was going on, what was happening here. Why did God dislike them so much? So based on his understanding of electricity, Ben Franklin, who is a deist, solved the problem with his lightning rod and his lightning redirection system in 1749. And today all churches, lo and behold, have lightning bolts or lightning rods, and they claim God is still protecting them. So I find that amusing. What about rainbows? Well, in Genesis 9:11, we have God talking to Noah. This is right after the flood, and God says, "And I will establish my covenant with you. Neither shall flesh be cut any more by the waters of the flood, neither shall there be any more flood to destroy the earth." And God said, "This is a token of thy covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. I do set my bow on the cloud, and it shall be forever a token of the covenant between me and the earth." So according to the Bible, rainbows are a remembrance of God's promise not to kill everything on the planet again.
Promise not to kill it again with a flood.
With a flood. Oh, okay.
He can kill it again in other ways.
Oh, okay. Okay, and you can contract this rather silly kind of creepy story with the Feynman lectures on physics, where Richard Feynman explained how and why rainbows appear the way they do, and he worked out the angles and the diffraction of the light and all this good stuff, and there's no psychopathic connotations, and there's a lot of natural beauty, and that's what science has done instead. So material science. Well, say you're a God and you wanted to communicate a message to humanity. And if you wanted to write something on a slate or a tablet, and you wanted it to last for centuries, you might use a sapphire-coated titanium, right? That might be a good choice as a writing surface to send a message.
I'm down with that. The thing is, I'm pretty sure that if I'm a God and I really want to communicate a message to everybody, I'd just tell everybody. Yeah. I certainly wouldn't pick languages that die off and things that are, temporary or...
Thomas Paine made a very good argument that God would never use anything written to communicate a message, right?
I happen to agree. I mean, maybe God knows something that I don't, and maybe there really is some benefit to vaguely inspiring individuals to write down those important messages on manuscripts that get lost and destroyed in languages that change and die. But somehow I've missed the obvious benefit of all of that.
Right. Right. Well, if God really wanted to do that, he could have, but apparently he was unaware of this technology when he wrote with his finger, according to the Bible, on stone tablets, the Ten Commandments. And this is in Exodus. Instead, he used magic lightweight, invisible crumble stone. Okay, where do we get that? Well, it's magic because he made it. It's lightweight because Moses carried a 90-year-old guy who's carrying up and down the mountains.
Yeah, but back then 90 was like 20.
I guess so. And invisible because we don't have any trace of them today, and crumble stone because they all broke supposedly. Okay. And God seems to have some issues with metal. He hates these molten calves that they make images of little calves that people were worshiping, and he just thinks that's really awful. And this is one of your favorites in Judges 1:19. And the Lord was with Judah, and he drave out the inhabitants of the mountain, but he could not drive out the inhabitants of the valley because they had chariots of iron. Spooky, spooky. Okay. So most likely the mythology surrounding the stone tablets was a coveting of some other stone tablets somewhere else, the Code of Hammurabi, dating to 1772 BCE, that are currently exist for real, unlike the stone tablets of Jewish law. These are housed in the Louvre Museum in Paris. I've seen them.
Although to be fair,
yeah.
The second set of stone tablets are supposedly still exist, hidden away in the Ark, which supposedly still exists in a location that only the devout are aware of. Nice open format there, God.
And Indiana Jones too, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, it's this whole story about the Ten Commandments strikes me as like, well, why bother with creating all this stone and stuff when you can just make up a cock and bull story and get people to believe you, right? And just make sure your story has a little clause that makes sure that things disappear at the end.
So when you say cock and bull story, since they made a bull, the first part of it's the cock part, right?
I guess so.
The stuff that comes from God is the cock?
Right, right. And isn't it ironic that Marduk, the god of the Babylonians, I think it was apparently more powerful than the god of Christianity, and he was able to leave a lasting legacy of his laws without any debate about what the laws say. Let's talk a little bit about mathematics. In the Bible, 1 King, you don't like this one, do you? It's all right. In the Bible, 1 Kings 7:23, and he, who is Solomon, made a molten sea 10 cubits from one brim to the other. It was round all about, and its height was 5 cubits, and the line of 30 cubits did encompass it round about. And this is also repeated in the 2 Chronicles chapter 4. So So this is a biblical value of pi.
No,
they put it at 3, and you don't
No,
like
it's
this.
not.
No,
It's not a biblical value of pi. It's
Okay.
he made something that was round, not necessarily perfectly circular, and it was 10 feet across and 10 cubits across and 30 cubits around, and that's pretty doggone close, and nobody's saying that this is pi. There's so many good things to rip the Bible on. To kind of do this twisting thing for pi,
Well, you know, if God had been, you know, able to...
But this wasn't God, this was Solomon.
Yeah, but this isn't the Bible. God inspired the Bible, right?
He evidently didn't inspire Solomon to make a circle.
Okay. Anyway, so...
Slavery, done.
In reality, pi is an irrational number. It has an infinite decimal expansion, and that's a pretty interesting thing about the number, but they didn't know that. A more serious thing is there is a thing called the Archimedes palimpsest. And who was Archimedes? Well, he was this brilliant mathematician, Greek physicist and engineer who lived in the 3rd century BCE. A palimpsest is a manuscript that is overwritten, where they've kept the underlying paper or papyrus or in this case parchment, and they scrape off the ink and they overwrite it because that parchment might be expensive or something. So this palimpsest contained several rare and unique books from Archimedes, and in the book titled The Method of Mechanical Theorems, he created some of the methods that are involved in integral calculus. So Christians, when they got a hold of this thing, this book from Archimedes, or this copy of a manuscript from Archimedes, they said, "Hey, we got some parchment here. Let's scrape off all the ink and let's reuse this for a liturgical text, which is basically a service for how to get the gullible to give money, that sort of thing." So these methods, unfortunately, were lost until the 17th century, which is almost 2,000 years later. So anyway, I think this is one of the sad episodes of you know, Christian contributions. So they clearly valued the wrong thing, and they were too ignorant to know what a priceless artifact that they had and nearly destroyed. Fortunately, this got in the hands of a collector who recognized its value, and they were able to, through a lot of science, figure out what it really said and what it really had there, and it's quite an amazing artifact.
That's a good thing to do, though, is that, you know, there shouldn't be a need to write down like what God wants, because you could just pray about it and find out. But we can't pray to Archimedes and have him tell us what he originally wrote. So why don't we leave that stuff alone?
Right.
It seems like a good idea to
let God communicate via prayer, right? Except prayers, nothing fails like prayer, right? So there's nothing in the Bible about zero, negative numbers, real numbers, complex numbers, or different types of infinities. Nothing in there about algebra, trigonometry, calculus, differential equations, logic, probability, anything you'd learn in high school or college. Nothing of that sort of thing. So there's nothing in the Bible that would lead anybody to think they knew anything about mathematics. And so Bible-based science is exactly what you'd expect from Bronze Age goat herders. Pretty much that's what's there. Real science is the culmination of centuries of observations, hypotheses, testing, confirmation, and shared reasoning done by vast numbers of very dedicated people who have worked very hard. And that's what I really enjoy about the science museums, is you go there and you see this huge amount of knowledge and this huge amount of disparate things brought together in a way that's understandable and makes sense and is comprehensible, and you get to go learn about it. You know, you can learn more in 15 minutes at a good science museum than you can lifetime reading the Bible. So where church and the Bible have made testable predictions that were not common knowledge at the time, they have singularly failed. So there's lots of failures there, and the wonder-working power of God is only just the power to con the gullible. So Christian Science is a miserable failure, and I'll continue in this theme in the next couple of weeks, couple times I'm on.
Cool. Also, for those of you who are, you know, desperate to call in, and the number's up. We got full lines, which we'll get to in just a second. to say, yes, but the Bible got this part of science right. There are some examples of things that the Bible got right. I don't care. They didn't inform anybody or educate anybody, and they weren't, you know how we found out those things were right? We found out by actually doing science. So the fact that, you could make a list of things and hunches and guesstimates and whatever, and the fact that somebody got something right. The other thing is, some of those that they're claiming, they learned about something from science, and then they went back to the Bible and scanned through it like crazy, and then they find something, a passage that's about something else or is poetry, and said, if I read it like this,
yeah, there's a lot of that.
It actually,
a lot of spin and stealing credit. Yep.
It tells all about the Higgs boson right there in Isaiah. How did we miss that? I don't know how we missed it.
Yep.
All right. So we've got a full set of phone lines are full, and seriously? Yeah. We'll start with David in Fort Lauderdale. Thanks for waiting.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Hey, how you guys doing? I'd like to thank you guys for taking your time out of the week to do this show.
Well, thanks.
And yeah, I have a shower radio, so I hear your show every morning.
Okay.
So now you have a picture of me naked. I like to start with what I want to say. I'm an atheist working for a nonprofit Christian organization.
Mm-hmm.
I started working here a year ago, and I was questioning when I got hired, so I didn't really know what I believed in. So now I'm an atheist, and it's just really hard for me to come out to other people because I feel like they would say, oh, you don't believe in this company's message, or,
Sure,
would that in any way hurt my job?
It certainly could. And the relevant law on this is, and I'm no expert, but there are special laws for church exemptions, for example, from the
equal opportunity laws,
mm-hmm. so that they might be within their rights to hire you because to fire you.
Right.
I don't know that they would. Here's the thing about coming out. I encourage people to come out. We need more people who are out and open, because every out atheist is somebody that another individual gets to meet, and they have to put a face on it, and it's no longer, oh, they are evil people that I don't know. It's, hey, my buddy, Joe or David is an atheist. The problem is, or what I end up saying is, if you think that coming out is going to and is likely to jeopardize your life, your health, your happiness, your employment, etc., don't do it. You need to come out when you're ready, when you're comfortable, when you, if you're okay, when you're okay with losing all of the things that you could potentially lose,
mm-hmm.
that's when you can come out.
I have a question for you, but before we go on, do you still believe in the mission of the organization that you belong to?
In a way, we go to third world countries and help out kids. We hand out books, but I feel like that it's
real books or Bibles.
Like, it's kind of like we call it Book of Hope,
mm-hmm.
and it's little sentences and pictures for kids to read to understand God's word and their sense.
So it's proselytizing. So you're not really helping them. You're just giving them platitudes.
Yeah, but I feel like I've been to South Africa and I've distributed these books. But I feel like the attention I give kids is worthwhile because these kids are poor and I feel like they need attention. But
so,
yes, in a way, I don't believe in the message.
Yeah. So don't you think? Sorry. Don't you think if the thing is the kids enjoy the attention and the interaction and everything else, can't we do all that and provide food and provide books that actually educate them, instead of just platitudes and Bible verses?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So maybe my advice to you would be to see if you could find another charity that's doing something similar, where maybe there's not a more secular
mm-hmm.
purpose to it, and maybe you can help them better. in a better way.
Yeah. I'm a production assistant there, so I work on videos that help update our donors on what exactly we're doing. So I'm not really out in the field a lot. I'm usually in the studio working on videos.
Well, those sound like very useful skills that you can employ in other areas.
Yeah, but it's just like finding another job is, a huge challenge for me. But I should start getting on that.
I can fully understand that it's difficult to find a job. Hey, at least you can take some pleasure in that some of the money is going to fund your godless heathen activities outside of work. But it's certainly the type of thing, you have to make the decision for yourself. Yeah, it's not work I can do.
I've rooted myself in the Christian community here. I have 4 Christian roommates. Everybody that I hang out with is Christian, and I feel like that seeps into my relationships. Like when I tell, girls that I'm an atheist, they're completely turned off by it, and they want like a word with me. They don't, they don't want to talk to me anymore.
Well, yeah, you get your whole community centered around this, and it makes it very, very difficult to step out. There are atheist communities out there. There are online communities. There are lots of meetups and these sorts of things, and that might be something you ought to look into, maybe discreetly at first, and build some bridges with secular folks or atheists or even folks that are not religious and that are doing other things, right? Other interests, because you got to have some social support in your life, and if it's all coming from one place, then it's kind of like having all your eggs in one basket, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you could very well find yourself in a position not unlike those of members of the Clergy Project. Ministers who are still doing this work but don't believe. You're involved in an organization that you don't believe in, and it seems that your entire social community is made up of these people, which means you're constantly at risk of losing everything. And so, branch out slowly. Find some secular friends to interact with, some organizations.
Look for another job.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly. I mean, we're trying not to come down and say, "Gosh, you're doing evil work. Why haven't you stopped that yet?" No, it's see what you can do. Sometimes you take the job you can get, and it's easy to get comfortable.
Yeah.
So.
But in a way, I'm comfortable working right now because I'm not really out on the field doing that kind of stuff. Yeah. Just doing videos, what I love to do. I love going on my computer and editing videos.
Sure.
But every once in a while we have like day of prayers where we all get in a circle and we pray and it's just praying for. We have like a huge cancer, sickness list, cancer. It's just like it's so hard not to keep a straight face and not to.
Yeah.
Everybody prays and I'm the only one that has his head up. It's just. It's really hard. It's hard.
Yeah, I think actually, as kind of a joke, I think it's proof that there is a God. Because when you work for a corporation and you have lots and lots of meetings, you don't tend to get a lot of stuff done. And churches not only have meetings, but then they spend extra time praying too. So I'm wondering how they get any work done, which clearly it's a miracle and therefore God. But,
well, I was going to say, let that discomfort motivate you to find some other friends and other job situation if you can.
Yep. I hope it all works out for you. Thanks for calling, David.
Thank you.
Take care. We've got, what kind of mood you in?
Go for it.
Matt in Oslo,
hey.
Norway, supposedly.
Hello there.
Hello.
Matt again. You know who I am, right? We've been emailing, right?
Yeah. I guess so. I mean, I have no evidence that the person on the phone is the same one that's been sending me emails, but sure, I'll go with it.
Yeah, and I got you on the hook once again, and you're not going to slip off this time like you always do somehow.
You want to bet?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Evan in Littleton, Colorado, how are you?
Hola, this is the cleaning lady. Oh, sorry, what? Am I on?
You're on.
Yeah.
What you got for us today?
Hello?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good. How are you?
Oh, I'm okay. I'm definitely tired. Got a new job recently. I took some notes for you here. First question, remember those Oreos that you guys were eating a couple weeks ago and you said it was like special cream on the inside?
Yes.
Well, given the nature of your show, how it's all about logical fallacies and so forth, are you sure that was special cream? You sure it wasn't maybe syllogism?
You really called for this? Because we only have 28 minutes left in the show.
All right. Well, you guys have been really wonderful in educating me on all this stuff because I never took a rhetoric class, so I can understand better how people are screwing up their arguments, how they're trying to maybe intentionally, maybe not, but definitely mislead you. And I've come up with a fallacy that I'm not sure it has an official name or not, but it's a reference back to the original Jurassic Park movie, when Jeff Goldblum's character Ian Malcolm says that the scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think as they should. Is there like an official fallacy name for something like that?
I don't even know that it's a fallacy. You're talking about two different things.
Well, I'm talking about the sort of when people say, well, just because we can do something, that means we should do something. Like, well,
that would be a fallacy.
Like the people who say that we have weapons, therefore we ought to use them, right?
Yeah, I don't know too much about people actually making that argument or what fallacy it might be.
Okay.
Just a general non sequitur.
Okay, well, okay, non sequitur, gotcha. All right. Let me ask you this. The part about the where Jesus is saying that you can pick up snakes and not be harmed, and you can drink poison and all that.
Sure.
Is he talking about any snake, or is he talking about, like, just non-venomous snakes? Does it make some specification like that? Because there are people who are picking up venomous ones, and I'm not sure that the Bible's that specific, is it?
It is.
It is? Venomous snakes. Not be harmed.
Yes, Matthew 16, 9 through 20, that last section, which is largely considered to be a forgery, is this place where it says they can drink any poisonous thing and they can handle venomous serpents, etc.
Mm-hmm. So, in your opinion, you don't think people should be doing that sort of thing? Because I'm certainly concerned that venomous snakes, if you pick those things up and you don't know what you're doing, it's,
That's correct.
And
there's a lot of ministers who
bite me all the time, so.
Yeah, there's a lot of ministers who've gotten bitten and died from that, and the flocks just keep coming because it's a good show, I guess.
I hope so. It doesn't sound like a good show with me on it. I'm sorry about that. Let me ask you this: was it Matt who came up with like the Captain Kirk test for the Bible? Like, if Jesus says something, does it also make sense if Captain Kirk says it?
Russell. That was Russell.
Again, I've come up with an equivalent, the desert island test. If this is supposed to be the Word of God and it's talking directly to you, then you don't need anybody else to help you interpret it, right? So if you're on a desert island with, say, nothing but a dictionary in case you didn't get the vocabulary, you didn't know what a word meant, shouldn't that be enough? So if you're reading a page that says that God called in a bear to kill 42 children, it really means that, and it doesn't mean that, there's some metaphorical interpretation of that where he didn't really kill them or somehow they deserved it. No, he really was that much of an asshole.
Now, you see you're cheating here because you're taking away the ability of the preacher's ability to spin the verses the way they want it, right?
Cheating for whom? Cheating for the preachers or cheating for the people who are seeking reality?
Well, there is the idea, and while it was more prevalent in early Christianity than it is now in modern, and that is this idea that this information isn't meant for everybody, that there are secret teachings, and that you can only understand it, not with the guidance of a preacher, by the way, that's not in there, but by the guidance of God. The Holy Spirit will reveal to you what this passage actually means. The curious thing is that the Holy Spirit evidently reveals different things to different people for the same passage, which is how you ended up with over 1,000 denominations that all call themselves Christian.
Right, yeah, and as you guys say, with the scientific method, you tend to get convergence, not divergence of thought.
That's right.
So, yeah, it's exactly backwards there. In fact, if you think, like, if you read the Bible backwards, it kind of makes more sense. Like, Jesus started out trying to get people to be nice, and when they didn't get the message, then he got cranky. And if you look at the 10, or 12 plagues of Egypt, if you read those backwards, it kind of makes more sense. Like, some of them haven't happened yet, but others, like the droughts, and again, you're really stretching it. There's no guarantee that
you're bending over way too far.
It seems to make a little bit more sense.
You're bending over way too far.
Like, I can interpret it like the Whore of Babylon is actually my friend Juanita that I used to work with at a tobacco shop, because if you research the etymology of the word whore, it didn't mean prostitute when the Bible was written. It meant a person who is a woman who is generally of nice disposition. She's friendly, and she's not a housewife. She works for a living. Okay. And in that context, working in a tobacco shop, the cup filled with the filth of her fornication, well, she carried around a metal coffee can.
Yeah.
And fornication,
hey, Evan?
like oven. Yeah, I know it's a stretch. Of course, it's ridiculous. But if you interpret it that way for somebody who might be getting special teachings, then it may make more sense. But there's no guarantee that it's right, of course.
Yeah. And on that note, we're going to go on to the other callers. Thanks, Evan. Have a good day. Sorry. I get enough batshit crazy from the people who actually believe this stuff. Anthony in Youngstown, how are you?
Hello. Hi. How are you?
Good.
Good, good. I actually was going through some YouTube videos, and I can't remember how, but somehow I came across your guys' videos, and it was the one that I first saw. I know, just to give you some background, I hope you don't mind, was the one where it said 95% of Christians don't know what the Bible says or whatever, and I thought this would be like a unique experience, like a maybe the average caller wasn't as ignorant as that woman. But I went through more videos, and I was surprised that it seemed like a majority of our callers seemed to not really know the Bible or how to present a good defense for the faith. And me myself, I'm a Christian, so
to be fair, though,
and respond.
To be fair, we do this on a regular basis, and a lot of folks call in, kind of cold, and they may not be very practiced in that sort of thing. But yeah, there's a lot of the arguments are kind of tired, many of them, and refuted a million times already.
And there's two other things to note. One is that the clips on YouTube are actually posted by fans, so people are picking out their favorite callers, which oftentimes for people is...
That makes sense.
Yeah, we are going to be, but we don't currently. The entire show is available,
via our archives.
In the archives, but the clips are posted by fans. And the other thing about that is that, and I apologize, this is not an attempt to preempt what you may or may not say, but you're not the first person to say this, and so I get emails on a regular basis from people who are saying, why do you only take calls from the idiot Christians, the ones who can't actually defend their faith and don't know what they're talking about? And my response is, we don't make any determination. The phone line, the number's posted, it's right here. And we don't do anything much more. I think you can attest. I would imagine that when you called in, they asked what was your name and what you wanted to talk about, and that was it, right?
Yeah. Actually, that was a refresher, and I got through fine. And I mean, you gave a good explanation of why that would occur. Why you only
But here's the deal. Here's the deal. When I answer those people, I say, look, you're welcome to call in yourself. Most of them bow out because they don't find themselves particularly good representatives, which makes me confused as to how they were able to determine that somebody else wasn't. But I also say you can have your minister call in, you can have your favorite apologist call in, and the thing is, when they do, we get the same complaints about those people who called in. So, Ray Comfort was on for an entire show, and I get email from Christians right afterwards saying, oh yeah, but he's not really, he's not a good apologist. He does this for a living.
Right.
And I didn't pick. But anyway, go ahead, Anthony, what do you want? Okay.
Well, to give you a view of where I'm coming from and a framework, because there's different flavors of Christianity. I have a Presbyterian background, and I'm the people who I would consider good apologists would be those of Greg Bonson, Cornelius Van Til, philosophers like that, and more of the presuppositionalist approach. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, I'm very familiar with presuppositionalists, although probably much more with the modern armchair presuppositionalists. But I'll let you continue.
Okay, fine. In the beginning of the show, there was a statement made that a general statement may have been meant to be taken literally, or maybe it was just something that's kind of don't look too close into this. But you said that I don't think it was you. I think it's the other guy. You're Matt, right?
Yeah, I'm Matt, and Don's here with me.
Okay, Don, I think it was him, and he was going into science and religion. He was saying that how basically Christianity is kind of anti-knowledge. and they shut up Galileo, right? And they didn't want to look through the telescope, and gave numerous examples. And I don't want to address like every single one because obviously you don't want to take up the time. But one of the things that was support evidence was that God told Adam and Eve not to consume of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Right.
And that was supposedly supposed to be a support for how Christianity or even the Bible is anti-knowledge.
Did you do that?
Yes, I did.
Before I respond to that deeper, would you care to explain, like, what is it in that particular case? Is it just the word, because the word knowledge is there itself, and it was told not to be consumed?
It's clear in the story that they become aware of their nakedness and aware of things, and they become like gods, effectively, which is presumably about knowledge and not necessarily about living forever. Right?
No, it's about, but it's specifically, I missed this when he mentioned it, it's specifically about the knowledge of good and evil. They ate the fruit of the tree that gave them an understanding of morality, not general knowledge. So that passage isn't an indictment of general knowledge.
Kind of where I was going with that. Basically, I would elaborate a little bit more, but yeah, it was the context. I don't want to say that as a buzzword, but let me just use a different word instead, because a lot of people do that. Oh, context. But the situation there was a tree of knowledge of good and evil, and to say that they didn't have knowledge or this was anti-knowledge is kind of skipping over the fact that the tree was a knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Right. Additionally, I don't even think that they didn't have any knowledge of good and evil before they ate the tree as well. I believe that they had a more autonomous knowledge of good and evil after they ate of the tree, because they would know what's good and evil.
It's a vague story, and you can read a lot into it if you want.
Well, the reason I think you think that is because you've probably spotted the very obvious flaw, is that if they had no knowledge of good and evil prior to eating from that tree, then they couldn't have known that what they were going to do was wrong.
That is one way to get there. That's not the way I get there.
They were effectively told to obey and be little robots and
yeah. But moreover, what I find baffling isn't so much that you have a different belief about what they knew, but that you seem to be saying, you seem to be indicating that you believe that this is a story that actually happened, that there was a literal Adam and Eve Garden of Eden and tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Yes.
Does the story matter?
Well, I do believe that, but I don't see how that's relevant to the initial way that you brought it up. Because regardless of whether it's true or not, it's still in the Bible and it's still in Christianity. And your claim was that Christianity and the Bible is anti-knowledge.
You know, there's a lot of messages in Christianity about, you know, go with your emotions, don't think too much, don't go to college because you'll deconvert you, and these sorts of things. And yes, maybe that may not have been the best example, but there's certainly a message that's there. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree, but would you agree that there's also a message that you should educate yourself, that you should pursue those type of endeavors, maybe even on a smaller scale? And that's one of the things that I have against a lot of Christians, people who call themselves Christians, is maybe even on a smaller scale, but it is there. I can actually tell you where it is predominant.
Well,
it's in.
Very quickly.
My thing is, I don't know that we're getting anywhere on this because, as Don has pointed out, the Bible is the big book of multiple choice, and you can pick out verses. For example, I could go to 1 Corinthians and say, for the wisdom of the world is foolishness unto God, which is a testament to not seeking worldly wisdom at all. And also the passage is about not being you're not of this world even though you're in it, and so that your focus is elsewhere. And when you take these things in light of what churches and religions have done throughout history, they gave us universities, but their purpose in creating universities was to create more scribes to transcribe their holy books. the discovering, there's been two different schools on this. There's been one school that is, let's go out and learn about the universe because we want to learn more about God, and the other school of this is, yeah, but the second you learn something that seems to contradict what's in our book, now you're talking about things that aren't true, that shouldn't have been investigated, and we're opposed to those.
That's right. There are those two schools of thought out there.
Okay. There's a lot of things brought up there. As far as like the different verses, I'm sure you have plenty of verses, and you have like a carpet bombing session where you bring up other verses, and I could do that. But you're bringing up another objection, which is kind of closer to what my point was initially, is that yes, there is ignorance within Christianity.
Okay.
I acknowledge that, and there is also people who are for education.
I agree.
And I would say that exists in the atheist versus and theist world. I've come across atheists.
I agree.
Who are not, hardcore on education and bettering themselves as well as both. So, and here's the thing: those people, and though they do exist, I would not say that is necessarily what the Bible itself teaches. Like, remember, just because someone calls themselves something, right, doesn't mean that their book is teaching them to do whatever they're doing in a particular case. If that was the case,
this is like the no true Scotsman fallacy, right?
There's
no.
Yes.
Hang on. Let's see if you're willing to say that, though.
Hang on.
I'm not accepting no true.
Hang on. There's a lot here, and this is the problem. Christianity can be anything, and as we've said before, for example, when Don talks about Christians and science, if what he said doesn't apply to your particular version of Christianity, then he wasn't talking about you. However, when you start to imply that this cafeteria Christianity of picking and choosing, what you said a minute ago was just because somebody's a Christian, it doesn't mean their Bible's telling them to do that. Well, the Bible advocates, for example, slavery, my go-to example. And yet, religious people, Jews and Christians, nowadays go against what the Bible has to say about that. My thing is, we both agree that there are good people and evil people, or people who can do good and can do evil, whether they are theist or atheist, whether they are Christian or not. There are people who are interested in knowledge and people who aren't, whether they are Christian or not, atheist or not. And so what is it about Christianity that's even remotely relevant? Christianity isn't a pathway to truth or understanding about the real world.
Well, I want to respond to the thing the first thing that you kind of built your argument on. You said Christianity can be anything, right? Just now. And
you were sort of arguing. We hear this all the time. Oh, they weren't real Christians.
No, I'm going to answer that. I'm not going to respond that way. Trust me. I mean, maybe you talked to a lot of people there, but listen to what I'm saying.
We hear that a lot, though.
That's fine. If Christianity, and I'm a studying your philosophy as well, and you may be aware of this, this statement or whatnot. But when you said Christianity could be anything, if Christianity or anything is potentially anything, then it is actually nothing.
I agree.
We're not talking about anything. So,
ding, ding, ding.
Which is why.
When you say the word Christianity to me, like, it must convey something, or at least you must be intending for it.
Okay. Do you know what hyperbole is?
Hyperbole?
Yeah. When I say Christianity could be anything, I don't mean that I don't mean literally anything.
Okay. Okay. That explains it then.
What I mean is that you can justify most positions, you can justify many different competing positions by picking and choosing different portions of the Bible, and then you construct something that you can call Christianity. And by the way, it's entirely possible for somebody to invent a Christianity that has nothing to do with the Bible. I've even seen people try to come up with Christian atheism.
Okay. So you would say that was hyperbole, that you can't justify anything and really justify it in Christianity, but many things. There's a lot of them.
Sure.
Right? Okay. So that will mean that there are some things that you can't justify, correct?
Yeah. Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it about those particular things that makes them unjustifiable in regards to what the Bible teaches? You can't say what those things that you can't say that the Bible teaches and call it Christianity.
Well, it's not my job to make the Bible logically consistent, right? But when I'm talking about Christianity, I generally talk about the movement of people coming together and doing something like screwing up the teaching of evolution. There's an active movement that is Christian, that is doing that, and I feel justified in saying, hey, Christians are doing this. This is a Christian movement.
You can't get to the position that slavery is wrong when it's very explicit that it's okay. I mean, unless you're going to toss out specific verses and then make vague appeals to others. I mean, the Bible specifically sanctions slavery.
The point I'm trying to get at is that you have excluded certain things as representative to Christianity. You said Christianity can't be anything, right? But that was hyperbole. So it can be many things, right? But there is a limit to it. And I'm saying that I'd imagine that the limit that you put on things that can't be justified by Christianity follows the same rules of the way I think things can't justify what people say about Christianity. That's why I wanted to get a specific example to get to the bottom of why you exclude certain ideas from the realm of Christianity, and see if they're the same reasons that I exclude certain ideas from the realm of Christianity.
Sure, it's really... Anthony, stop. We're running out of time. I understand you. Okay, you can't justify worshiping Satan and calling yourself a Christian. There.
Why?
Because Christianity entails the worship of the opposition to Satan. And those 2 points are mutually exclusive.
So if you teach something that is contradictory to Christianity, therefore you cannot call it Christianity. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, to the extent that Christianity can be defined. The problem is there's a lot of vagary going on there, and that's why there's so much flexibility about what can be included. It's such a broad umbrella. That's the point of objection. That's why you have thousands of denominations. That's why you have thousands of disagreements. That's why you probably have a slightly different version of Christianity for every person who identifies as Christian.
Okay, going back to the thing that we said about knowledge, though, that Christianity is anti-knowledge. The reason why I would say that what those other people were doing wasn't Christian, not that they are not Christians, but what they are doing is not Christians, is for the same basis that you don't believe in that devil worshiping can be Christianity. I don't believe it's a vague issue, and I do believe the Bible promotes knowledge. It may be not cleared up in your perspective, and we could talk more about that at another time.
You got a quote?
But I see that's clear.
You got a chapter and a verse?
Promote advancing.
Okay, well, congratulations. I'm happy you think that you are clear on an interpretation of the Bible that says what you want it to say.
Not just me. There's a bunch of us. We're called Presbyterians.
Okay. What's the Presbyterian take on slavery, since you keep avoiding it?
I actually wasn't avoiding it. I was just trying to stay on the task at the topic because I wanted to make...
Well, you're making appeals to the Bible, right? And you're okay with it being literal, which is bizarre considering the scientific evidence flatly refutes any literal take on Genesis. But now you're talking about, in addition to literal, you're talking about your own interpretations of it, or the Presbyterian interpretation, and I would dispute that there is a Presbyterian interpretation, and then in fact there are probably many Presbyterian interpretations. But
have you ever heard of Westminster Catechism, the Westminster Confession, and Westminster Creeds? Those are the standards for Presbyterians, and we all have to believe those and recite them on a basis.
Yes, and are you so obtuse that you don't think that there are Presbyterians who call themselves Presbyterians and identify as Presbyterians who agree with those things but have different views on other things that aren't addressed specifically by those? Does that address every single possible point of contention in the Bible?
No, but that's what we were talking about. But we were talking about knowledge, the pursuit of knowledge, right? And in the Presbyterian, the first question of the Catechism is, what is the chief end of man, right? And the answer is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever.
Yeah, that seems kind of useless as a first one. Why wasn't there a pursuit of truth? Maybe they wouldn't believe the rest of the things they believed if their first was pursuit of truth. But go ahead.
Well, we believe that one of the characteristics of God is that He is truth. So glorifying Him and enjoying Him.
That's pretty damn convenient. That's pretty convenient. Hey, we believe God's truth. Therefore, when we don't have to say we're looking for truth because we're looking for God, which is truth, which is, oh my gosh, what does that mean? What does that mean at all to say that? Anthony, let me finish my damn question. What does it mean to say that God, this agent, whatever, is truth? Because if I flip a coin, it's true that it either came up heads or tails, unless it landed on its side, but that's not God.
I was going to explain. I know where you're going with this. I would say that regardless of whatever denomination or even religion that you are, God is your truth. Truth is God.
Okay,
truth, it can only come from God.
You said, first of all, you said your truth, which implies some sort of subjective truth, which I'll reject out of hand. But second of all, you're asserting that truth is God. You're not answering why that's true.
You want to answer that from like the Christian perspective? Like,
no, I'd actually like reason and evidence. I'm sick to death of the interpretations that are the Christian perspective. What is the reason and evidence for which you are justified in asserting that God is truth and truth is God?
We would have to establish a definition of what is God. I can tell you my definition of what God is.
Truth.
And truth would. Remember, when we're saying we're saying these two, and there's baggage with them. We're saying truth, and then I have definition of what truth is, and we're saying God, and I have a definition of what God is. If you ask me why is God truth, why is truth God, and why
Which
is
I
God
have
truth?
4 times.
What was that?
We're out of time.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
Call
back another time.
Sure. Thanks, Anthony.
You're welcome.
So, how you doing?
Just fine.
Clearly, God is truth because I believe that God is truth. But maybe Anthony will have more meat on the bone the next time he calls in about God and truth. We are completely out of time, and there's still callers on the line. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. There's a website at the bottom of the screen you can hit. There's the people who actually make the show possible. Don and I just sit up here and talk. Well, Don does a lot of work. I just sit up here and talk.
We look pretty. That's what we do.
We are the pretty face of friendly atheism. See y'all next week. Bye-bye. Hey, Alls.
Hello?